Hello and welcome to Exploring Game Pass. Each episode we'll take a look at some of the best and most unique titles available, as well as the games coming to and leaving the service. Get the most out of your subscription with Exploring Game Pass, brought to you by screenhype.co.uk. New episodes released on the 7th and 21st of every month. Now, on with the show. So, as I promised last week, today we are looking at Disney's Dreamlight Valley. So this is a life sim adventure game set in a magical village populated with Disney characters. You explore and gather materials, unlock new realms and biomes, invite new characters, all whilst improving the valley with items that you craft. So in short, it's Animal Crossing with Disney characters, but honestly, I love Animal Crossing, I like Disney, I was more than happy to give it a go. I'm not a huge Disney fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I like it as much as the next person. So when I saw it sort of advertised on the coming soon to Game Pass a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, okay, what's this? So I thought it might be kind of similar to Disneyland Adventures, but it's honestly nothing like it. So I watched the trailer and I was like, oh wow, this actually looks really good. So I downloaded it literally the first day it was available on Game Pass, and I've kind of been pouring loads of hours into it ever since, because it does really remind me in many ways of Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley, both of which I really loved. I just like a good cozy game every now and then, and it's so relaxing and peaceful, and you just get to create your own world. There's no violence, there's no intensity, you do it at your own pace, and I just really like that about the game. I like that I get to choose how I do it, how I play it, how far I take it, really. It's my experience set in this world. So one thing that I do much prefer than Animal Crossing with Disney Dreamlight Valley is that the tools don't break. One of the most annoying things when I'm playing Animal Crossing is when my axe or my spade or whatever just randomly breaks, and it is so annoying. Whereas in Dreamlight Valley, all of your tools are these magical, never break items that you can just literally use infinite amount of times and they will never break, and that is so convenient. Like, I'm so grateful they included that part of the game. One thing, however, that literally applies to any life sim game I've ever played, and every single time it really annoys me, is the limited inventory space. I am a hoarder in these games. I love to pick up absolutely everything I see, and it is so frustrating constantly having to sell items or go home and put them in my chest or whatever. I can never just keep them in my inventory because I run out so quickly, and even though you can buy additional space, it's expensive, and again, there's only so many times you can do it before you hit the maximum. One thing, however, that is really cool, so in Stardew Valley, you can build chests to keep items in. You can do the same in Dreamlight Valley, which I was really sort of happy to see, because you can't do it in Animal Crossing, but you can with Stardew Valley, which is another sort of life sim game I've played and enjoyed. So I was really happy to see that included in Dreamlight Valley. I suppose the only real downside with this is you have to remember where you've put each of these chests. So even though you can put them anywhere you like outside, you sort of have to remember which ones you've put where and what's inside each chest. So a top tip that I would suggest is to allocate certain chests for certain items. So for mine, I've got specific chests that have only flowers in it, only minerals in it, only building materials, only cooking ingredients, etc, etc. And it just makes it a lot easier to be able to find the items that you need for quests if you know that every single chest is only going to have one type of item in it. Because even if you forget where the correct chest is, you can still just click on each chest, and as soon as you see a flower, you know that everything in there is going to be a flower. So if you're not looking for a flower, you can click straight out again. And yeah, so that would definitely be my tip, is to make sure you decide which chest is going to be for which, and then hopefully try and come up with a system for which chests to put where. So a big part of this game is crafting, which is something I also really enjoy in these kinds of games, so I was very excited to see the sort of range of items you could create. And one thing that is absolutely amazing that I've never seen in another game like this is that any item that you own, whether it is in your inventory, in your house, in a random chest on the valley somewhere, you can use it. You just go into the crafting menu at the crafting table and it will show absolutely everything you own, and it is such an amazing quality of life feature. I'm so happy they did that. Like I said, I've never seen it in a game like this before, and I really hope it becomes the norm going forward, because it's just so much better than having to go all around the village looking for the right chest for the items that you want to craft. And you don't have to do that. You can just pop everything straight in your chests and just access it when you need it, and it's just absolutely brilliant. So one of the things you can craft is furniture, and you can also buy furniture and just randomly find furniture bags in chests and things like that. And the cool thing is it's all based on items that are found throughout the Disney movies and the Disney properties. So it all sort of fits the aesthetic really well, and you can sort of choose which properties are most interesting to you or which kind of vibes essentially are most interesting to you, and you can place them in your house, around the valley. You can't place them in other characters' houses, they've got their own thing going on, but what you can do is place it just outside their house if you wanted to sort of create a certain vibe for one character. But yeah, it's really cool that you can do that. One thing, because basically when you look into the menu on the furniture, it's all listed under different categories, and one thing that I just find kind of annoying is that dresses and wardrobes are listed under storage. So when I first saw that, I was like, oh wow, cool, instead of having to have all these ugly chests around my valley, I can have a really fancy wardrobe essentially out in the valley. But they don't actually store your items. It's just because in real life they're storage furniture, but they don't count as storage in the game. And I think that would have been a really nice touch for them to add, is if they had made it so that you could use chests of drawers, bookcases, whatever, as actual storage for your items. I think that would have been a really cool feature. But instead, they're just for decoration like most of the other furniture items. There are some that you can use, so you can make crafting tables, and you can make like ovens and things to cook on. So there are some that have practical features, but yeah, not the storage ones, unfortunately, apart from chests. And as well as furniture, you can also buy and find clothes. You can't craft clothes, but you can find chests which contain them, and you can also sometimes get them from critters, which I'll come to later because it's a very fun part of the game. But yeah, I love the customization options in this game. Just like with the furniture, it's all based on Disney properties. So you can wear a dress like a Disney princess, or you can wear a suit like a Disney prince, or not even just the princes and princesses, it's just pretty much all the characters. There'll be clothes based on them, even like background characters and stuff, and it's just a really cool feature. You can also create your own clothes, because one thing that you collect throughout the game is motifs, and basically there's a customization menu for clothes, and you go into it and you have access to all the motifs that you've unlocked throughout the game, so you can place them whereabouts you like on the t-shirt or whatever. And yeah, it's just a really fun feature to be able to decorate your own items as well as use the ones that they provide for you. Yeah, honestly, when it comes to customization, I cannot fault this game. It's done it really, really well and really cleverly. The same is true for character customization, and I would say this is probably the most inclusive game I've ever come across for character customization. These days, it's very common to be able to choose your gender and your skin color. Like, you can do that here, but you can do that in lots of other games. But something I've seen with this that I've literally never seen before is that you have the option to give your character vitiligo, which, in case some of you aren't aware, it's like a skin condition where some of your skin's like a different color. And I've literally never seen that before. I don't have vitiligo myself, but I know it must be so amazing for people who do have vitiligo to be able to see proper representation for their condition in a game like this, and to be able to create a character who actually looks like them. Like, I can't imagine how amazing it must feel, because like I said, I've never seen this in any kind of game before whatsoever that's had character customization. So for them to be able to create a character that looks like them must just be so amazing for them, because it even has different like skin colors that come with the vitiligo, and it's just really, really lovely feature. And it also has religious headwear, so you can wear like headscarves and turbans, and I'm a Muslim myself, so I hardly ever get the option in game to wear a headscarf, so it's just really cool to be able to wear a headscarf in the game and to get that kind of representation. And I liked that I could swap between my character wearing a headscarf to look like me, and then just having her hair out and living a fantasy life in the game. Like, I could sort of mix and match depending on how I was feeling. And yeah, I just think just having that option means that the players who do want it can use it, and the players who don't want it don't have to. And I would really like to sort of see this in more games going forward, you know, have those options for people of different religions, different cultures, different skin conditions. I admit I don't know how difficult it is to include in the game, so I expect it must be a hassle for the developers. But if they can afford to do it, I think it's just such a nice touch, and it must mean so much to the players who have those conditions and who have those cultures. So one thing that sets Dreamlight Valley apart from many other games of this genre is that it also includes quests that you do throughout the game, rather than just creating and designing the valley how you like it. So you're basically always kept busy because there's such a variety of quests available, and you can have multiple ones going on at the same time. So basically you get quests by interacting with characters, and sometimes you have to first unlock them by going to their realm, which uses Dreamlight, which I'll talk about later on in the episode. But you can also get it by working on your friendship, or by unlocking different biomes of the village. And yeah, so there's loads of different ways to unlock the quests, and then doing them, there's loads of different types of quests. So sometimes you'll need to craft something, sometimes you need to collect items, sometimes you need to go back and forth talking between characters. Like, there's always something to do in this game, and it doesn't feel repetitive because all the quests are so different. However, despite how much there is to do, it does sometimes feel like a mobile game, and it's really hard to like put my finger on why that is. Like, it's just a vibe that I get when I'm playing it. So it reminds me of back in the day, I used to play Sims Freeplay on my phone, and there's just these similarities that I can't quite figure out what it is. And when I was doing the research for this episode, I found out that the developer for this game is Gameloft, and they're primarily a mobile game developer. So I expect that's kind of why. I think the art style for this game is kind of mobile gamey, like high level mobile game. It's not bad art by any stretch of the imagination. I really like the art, but it does feel a bit like a mobile game. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they do decide to add it on mobile when it comes out of early access, because this game will eventually be free to play. So I really like the range of characters that you can get. So it is limited how many there are at the moment, but I think there'll be more added when the full game's released. But one thing I've noticed is it's a very big dichotomy with how the characters feel. So some of them are really excellent, like Mickey and Goofy. They look and sound exactly the same as in like the other Disney media. Whereas with other characters like Elsa and Minnie, for example, there's just something that's off. Like with Elsa, she looks really weird. She doesn't look at all like she does in the movie, and her voice doesn't sound like it does in Frozen either, so it feels really uncanny when you're talking to Elsa. It's just like she's kind of sounds like Elsa and she kind of looks like Elsa, but it's just something's not quite right. What I will say on that point, though, is that some of the characters do have their original voice actors and some don't. So that's probably why there's this disconnect. But there are characters like Anna and Merlin, and they have different voice actors, yet they sound really impressively similar to the originals. So I do think it is a case that some characters are definitely better than others when it comes to how accurate they are to their movie counterparts. But the dialogue isn't spoken in this game, so you have to read it. It comes up as text on the bottom screen. And even though I know there's a lot of conversations, it feels like a developer as huge as Gameloft should have been able to afford the voice actors to get basically every line spoken. I think that would have added even more depth to the game, especially if someone playing it is dyslexic or just struggles with reading in general. I just think it would have made a big difference. So instead, the characters repeat the sort of same catchphrases over and over every time you talk to them or like walk near them. And honestly, it does get really annoying because there's quite a limited pool of catchphrases they'll use, and when you hear them say the same thing over and over and over, it's repetitive and it does get annoying, and it makes me not want to walk near them because I know exactly what they're going to say and sound like. So there are a few main activities that you can do in the game, and these are foraging, gardening, digging, mining, and fishing. Now, one top tip I would say is that you should always hang out with one of the characters. So when you talk to the characters, you'll see the option to hang out with them. And when you first level them up to Friendship Level 2, you can choose any of the 5 activities that I mentioned for them to specialize in. And then when you do that activity while spending time with that character, you can earn bonus items. So if you're out fishing and you've got a buddy with you, you'll catch like extra fish, or you might find additional gemstones if you're mining. Plus, you get friendship points when you're hanging out with that character. And technically, you get the friendship points even if you're doing an activity they don't specialize in, you just get less of them. So what I would say is just go around doing the activities that you would have done anyway, but do them with a character with you, because that levels up the friendship faster. You could get extra items, and there's just literally no downside, I guess, unless you get really annoyed being followed by a character, which sometimes I do because of the catchphrases. So sometimes I will forego the extra items purely because I want a bit of peace and quiet without Goofy going, "Oh gosh," or whatever he's doing at the time. What I would say is try to have at least one character for each of the activities, so no matter what you're doing, you can find a character who you'll be able to get like extra ones for, especially if you're gathering items for quests. You just want to be able to do that a little bit quicker. But what I have done is I've given most of the characters a specialty in fishing and mining, because those two are my favourite activities and I find them pretty profitable. I think crop farming can be more profitable, but I hate the grind of digging a hole, planting a seed, watering the seed, harvesting the seed. I just don't have the patience for it. So I know I'm missing out on probably quite a lot of money by not farming very much, but I can't be dealing with it. I much prefer fishing and mining. I find them more interesting to do. The fishing in this game is implemented really well. Like, it's something I always look out for in life sim games because I love fishing. Like, I'm actually a vegetarian in real life, so I don't even eat fish, but in games I just love ripping them out of the water. So in Dreamlight Valley, they have like little bubbles on the surface to show where the fishies are, and they change colour depending on the rarity. So if you see white bubbles, it's it's going to be a common fish, blue are rare fish, and then the orange ones are the super rare fish, and that affects the selling prices of them. So if you find a blue bubble or an orange bubble, you want to go for the orange because that is going to sell for more money, unless of course you're after a specific fish that has a rarity of blue, because sometimes you'll need specific ones for certain meals or for certain quests. One downside of the fishing is that the angling is appalling, and please let one of you have got that pun about the angling. So basically, trying to get your character to face the correct angle is super difficult, and I don't understand why they have made this bad. In general, the movement in this game is pretty smooth, but when it comes to standing at the edge of the water and trying to face the right way, it just doesn't seem to want to work. Like, it will look like you are facing the right way, but then when you cast your hook, for some reason, it just goes massively off to the side. And I'm not sure if this is because it's in early access and they haven't fixed it yet, or if they've genuinely created this and thought, yeah, that's good enough. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on. But yeah, trying to get the right angle is really difficult because the visuals on the screen just don't seem to match the actual orientation. So it might take you a couple of attempts just to line it up properly with the bubbles. But when you do, it's pretty easy to get the catch. So I actually got my challenge for 100 catches with no misses, literally without any break from the first fishing I go. Because when you land in the bubbles, it sort of creates a ring and it will close in. And when it gets to the green segment, you have to press A, and that segment, it lasts for just under a second. So it's a really decent window. So yeah, you shouldn't have any issues with the fishing. It's quite a fun mini game and it's really, really easy. But for some reason, the characters are absolutely obsessed with you fishing. Like seriously, no matter where you are in the valley, if you cast your line, the second that rod hits the water, the nearest character will just come running up to you to watch you. And I don't get it. Like, there's so little to do on the valley. Like, they must have fished 1,000 times themselves. Why do they get so excited when I do it? I don't understand. No matter what, you can, even if you got, whether you got someone with you already or not, someone else will just come running up to watch you fish. Like, it makes me feel really good about myself. Like, yeah, look at this, I'm the star of the show. But it just doesn't make any sense to me why they've included that. When it comes to the soundtrack, I feel like they could have done so much better, and it's really disappointing because they've got some amazing songs. They've got instrumental versions of like famous Disney songs like Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo and Let It Go, and they're great, but they are so short and it's just constantly changing the song throughout the game. And I would have liked to have longer soundtracks so you get more time to get like immersed in them, to enjoy them. It just feels so choppy with such short instrumental versions. I don't understand why they didn't create elongated versions of the song specifically for the game. Sometimes it's literal silence. The music just cuts out entirely, so you just hear the sound effect of your character walking. And it just really takes away from the immersion because it's changing so frequently. And I know they probably won't change it for the full game. It feels like the music's probably something they would have perfected beforehand. But it is just a real shame that they were so close to having something really good with the soundtrack. And with all of the Disney properties, they had such potential because there are some absolute bangers in the Disney back catalogue. But yeah, unfortunately they missed the mark on this one a bit, I would say. One of my absolute favourite things about the game is the Dreamlight system. So this is what's used to unlock new biomes, and you can also unlock realms to get new characters. And it works very similar to how Nook Miles work in Animal Crossing. So basically you complete tasks around the valley and you get rewarded with Dreamlight. But as well as overall challenges for activities like cooking or making friends with people, you also get 6 daily challenges at a time. And this is where the real money can be made, so to speak. Like, it's not actual money, but it is a kind of currency. But yeah, this is where you want to go, because every time that you complete one of those tasks, it immediately refreshes with a new one. So you can just absolutely farm Dreamlight and get it really, really quickly by doing the activities. And often there's stuff that you might be doing anyway, so a lot of them are related to either fishing or cooking or mining. So just keep an eye on what the Dreamlight activities are, and you're very likely to sort of be able to pick them up relatively easily as you go about your tasks. Like, some of them can be a bit grindy, but other ones are just really easy to do in a couple of seconds. So I'd say definitely check them out all the time, because it's the best way to have a consistent revenue of Dreamlight, and that's the best way to make the most out of your game by unlocking new areas. So the game is currently in paid early access, but obviously as a Game Pass member you get it for free because it's included in the service. But the full version will be released as a free-to-play game sometime in 2023. It's expected to have a lot of microtransactions though, so if you hate microtransactions like I do, now is the time to get playing the game and start building things up before they put a paywall over everything. Playing the early access gives you special access to in-game rewards, so you can't get all of the ones that I got, because one of the ones ones I got was a first week player bonus, which was the pet crocodile. But you can also get, I think, certain furniture items, and you also get a lot of moonstones, which are like a premium currency that's used to buy, not battle passes, but like the equivalent of a battle pass, but that unlocks new items. I'm not sure what it's called, maybe just a pass. I don't know, all the games I've had passes like these have been like combat games, so I just called them battle passes. So I'm not entirely sure what the right thing is there. But yes, you can get moonstones by doing it early. So even if you don't usually play Game Pass, if you're keen on Dreamlight Valley, I'd say get the £1 trial for the first month, and that way you can download the special items, experience the game for a while, and then when the full game is released in 2023 for free, you can just keep playing, but keep all the rewards and things you've built up by playing the early access. However, as it is early access, this game is so glitchy, like super glitchy. I cannot emphasize enough how many glitches I have found in this. Like, it's not unplayable, but for a company as large as Gameloft, it is a lot more. Like, I feel the meaning of early access has kind of changed a bit. Like, for some games, you get early access and it's basically just a full game minus a few features and it runs flawlessly. Whereas with this, there are quite a few bugs. So often the camera will just jump to some other random area of the map. Sometimes it even jumps entirely out of the level bounds. And also sometimes when navigating the menu, it'll just freeze on the map page and there's nothing you can do. You have to quit out of the game and restart. And the game does autosave every 5 minutes, so you're unlikely to lose very much progress if that happens, but it is still annoying. And yeah, like sometimes there'll be like audio glitches. So I haven't had any, thankfully, like, I haven't had lagging, so I haven't had my character just randomly walking to different places, but it is very frustrating when the map just throws you out somewhere in terms of your camera. But yeah, I expect all of that will be fixed in the full game, but it's just something to note if you're thinking of playing the early access, is that you will have to deal with the fact that there will be bugs, and yeah, you just have to accept it as part and parcel of the early access. So as well as having the Disney characters around the valley and getting more as you unlock them, you also get really cute critters, and basically the different ones are specific to their biomes. So one biome has squirrels, one has what's called sunbirds, which are these really beautiful tropical birds. You got rabbits, crocodiles, raccoons, foxes. Like, they're all so adorable though. Like, I love the art style for them and the animations. They're very cute. Some of them are easier to approach than others. Like, some of them you just walk up to them and you can try and feed them, whereas others you have to do like a special routine to get them to feed them, and you can find tutorials for that online. So yeah, if you feed them a food they like, they'll give you an item in return in exchange. And also, when you fed a specific type of the animal 2 times, you can actually get to keep them as a pet, and they'll follow you around the valley. So with each one, so like I said, for example, one of the biomes has squirrels. There's also like a brown squirrel, a grey squirrel. Like, there's different colours for each of the animals, so you can really collect quite a few different ones. And yeah, being able to have them as a pet following you is really, really cool. And you can also unlock other pets as well. So I've got Incredi Squirrel based on the Incredibles, which I unlocked as part of the event, which is another thing that runs. So basically you have to do this is the battle pass thing I was telling you about. So you have to do like a certain amount of challenges over the course of the month, and you get rewarded for doing so with like different clothing, different motifs, different pets. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out the events tab. If you do play the game, go into the menu, click on events, and yeah, you can unlock pets like the Incredi Squirrel. There are a limited number of biomes and characters for now, but I expect that will expand when the full game is released. I can't imagine they're going to leave it at this, because I mean, it's only been out for like a month and already some people have really unlocked pretty much everything there is. And so with the characters, I think there's several realm doors that you can see when you go inside the Dream Castle. So the ones that are unlockable at the moment are for Wall-E, Moana and Maui, Anna and Elsa, and for Remy. So those are the ones you can unlock through the character doors, and there's others that you can unlock by going into the various biomes. But yeah, there's several other doors in the Dream Castle, so there are plenty of other characters on the horizon, and I'm really excited to get to see them. I really hope that they're not behind a paywall when the full game's released. I can't imagine it would be, but it'd be very annoying if that is the case. So now that I've given you an overview of what the game is like to play, here are some top tips that I've picked up from the many hours that I've poured into it. So crops will grow faster in the area where they're native. So as I was mentioning, there's all the different biomes. Pay attention to which seeds are available in which biomes, because those are the ones that will grow faster there, and then you can make more money if they're growing faster, essentially. So having several farms in different areas is a good idea. That way you can move between them to make the most of your crops. Like I said, I personally don't like growing crops too much, so my farms are like 6 plots deep because I'm not harvesting more than 6 at a time. I cannot be bothered. But yeah, if you're into the farming aspect, then definitely try to have them in the different biomes so you can grow them faster. You can also move both the indoor and the outdoor furniture. Now, as well as that being useful for decorative purposes, one thing that players have exploited that I found out about, and it is amazing, is that there's like teleportation wells in the game, so you can move between biomes quickly to fast travel. But what you can do, they count as furniture, so you can move them to areas of the biome that you haven't unlocked yet, because basically some will be like blocked by like giant mushrooms or other obstacles. But if you haven't made that far progress to remove them yet, you don't need to. You can just move the well into that area, fast travel to that well, and ta-da! You're in the new area, which I think is just an absolute brilliant little hack. Also, stockpile your materials, so things like wood, iron, stone, because later on in the game, there will be quests that require them, and you'll be really annoyed if you use them all up to create like pretty plant pots or something. I'm not saying don't make the pretty plant pots. If you want pretty plant pots, you get them, but don't let yourself go too low on those materials, because they are very high in demand for the quests. But on the flip side, don't become like me and just hoard everything, because seriously, I just struggle so hard to let go of anything that I own. I'll be like, oh sure, I've got 100 apples already, but what if I really need these other 10 that I've just picked? Better not sell them. I'm like, what if I sell them and end up regretting it? So I just never sell anything, and money is a problem for me. And it's really frustrating because I know I don't need it, but I just cannot bring myself to sell anything. So money making shouldn't be slow in this game. For me it is. So don't make the same mistake as I do. Just hoard materials, but things that aren't materials, just keep a nice low number in case you need them, and sell the rest. Make that dough. Scrooge McDuck would be proud. So hopefully you've enjoyed learning about the game. We're now going to move on to take a look at the wonderful titles that are coming soon to Game Pass. So for this, I'll be including anything that was announced since last episode's coming soon section, even though technically some of these titles were added a few days ago. So on October 4th, we had Chivalry 2. So this multiplayer hack and slash came out in 2021 and is really high rated. It's got an average of between 8 and 9 out of 10 from users and critics alike. I've never played the first Chivalry. Honestly, I hadn't even heard of the franchise, so I saw it was coming to Game Pass. But the trailer looks brilliant, and even though it's not my usual genre, I might end up giving it a try anyway, because watching the trailer made me realise I've never really played a first-person melee game before. I played a lot of like FPSs and stuff, but not when it comes to wielding swords and things. Like all the games where I've swung around swords and other weapons, they've all been in third person. So it's a very interesting perspective to see in the trailer, was them having like an axe sort of brandished right in front of them. I've seen it in survival games, but not in a hack and slash or any kind of melee specific game. And it also looks like they're not stingy on the blood and gore. You can tell they've invested a lot in the graphics. So if this is your kind of genre, then Chivalry 2 is definitely worth checking out. Like I've already heard a lot of positive reports from people playing it on Game Pass. Another one that's already been released was on October the 6th, we had Medieval Dynasty, or Dynasty, depending on how you choose to say it. So this is the latest in a long list of survival games that have been added to Game Pass, and I know there are many diehard fans of this genre who will be absolutely thrilled about this one, because there's a heavy focus on town management as well as RPG elements against the backdrop of a cold and unforgiving medieval society. I know there are some people who anything medieval, they love it immediately, so I can totally understand why they'd be excited for this one. The textures on the environment assets look impeccable. Like the overall, the trailer is really promising. Honestly, I probably won't play this one just because the survival genre isn't really one that appeals to me very often unless there's a particularly unique twist, such as with Grounded, for example. I loved Grounded, but in general, survival isn't really my thing. But if you like this kind of game, then Medieval Dynasty looks to be a great title, so definitely do check out that one. Now, on October 11th, we are getting Costume Quest. Download this game. Trust me, it is brilliant. Costume Quest and its sequel are literally the perfect Halloween game if you're a wimp like me and you don't enjoy horror. I cannot be dealing with horror, but Costume Quest is brilliant because you get all the fun of the spooky season without the fear of the monsters and the jump scares. You play as children out trick-or-treating and you stumble upon a mystery, and candy is your currency. Like, it's just so well crafted. I love the general concept of the game, and the execution is just adorable. I love it. This delightful RPG uses a simplistic yet fun turn-based combat system. It's not overly complex, but I still enjoy it. It's a good balance, especially it works for adults, don't get me wrong, it's not a childish game, but it could also be played by children around sort of like 9 or 10. I'd say for younger children it's probably a bit too confusing, but for older children it could be a lot of fun. But it's also fun for adults. It's just an amazing game all round. I adore it. I actually remember playing this on the PS3 all the way back in 2011 when the game was first released. I think I got it for free as part of like some kind of deal or something, but I saw it on my library on Xbox. I think it was also added as an Xbox Live Games with Gold one year, so I do already own it even though it is coming to Game Pass. But for any of you who haven't already played it, now is your chance, and believe me, it is worth checking out. It's also made by Double Fine Productions, and they have many amazing titles under their belts, including the Psychonauts series. Like, I played Psychonauts 2 when they came out, and that was amazing. So I definitely have high hopes for anything Double Fine produce. And like I said, I've played Costume Quest. I love it. It's honestly my favourite Halloween game ever. Then also on October 11th, we're getting Evil. So I had no idea what to expect with this one, as I hadn't even heard of it until I saw that it was coming to Game Pass. But now that I've looked it up, I'm really intrigued, to say the least. So it's a multiplayer social deduction game, and you all find yourself together in a village and have to catch the conspirators who are murdering the townspeople. The graphics don't look amazing, but they're not bad either. They remind me of Dungeons 3. So I'd say they're pretty much the standard fare for indie RPG graphics these days. So yeah, not bad, not great, they're fine. It's a day one release for Game Pass, so there's no reviews or anything yet, so I feel like this could either be a huge success or a major flop, depending on how many people decide to play it. So based on the trailer, the lobby sizes look quite large, around sort of 15 or so, and I can imagine matches could take a while if there aren't enough people interested in the game, but there could also be lag issues if there's too many people on the server. So I really hope the developers have put like a lot of thought into how to balance that. I'm sure they have though. I'm excited for it, certainly. One thing though is I expect you probably need a microphone to play it, and I know a lot of Xbox users no longer play with mics, like you don't really see it as often in online games anymore, so I can see that limiting the audience. So honestly, I'm probably not going to go in for it on day one. I'm probably going to wait a while and see how it does, but yeah, I can see this being a really cool and fun new game. Then on October 14th, the day after my birthday, we are finally getting Scorn, and this game has been promoted by Microsoft for ages now, so I'm sure there are many people who are going to be very excited that it's getting its release. Honestly, I thought it was a AAA game based on how heavily it was being pushed and how impressive like the vastness of the world and the graphics are, but it's actually by an indie studio called Ebb Software. I can totally understand why this one's been so awaited by gamers. It looks fantastic, but I'll be honest, it's probably not for me. It just looks like it's going to be too dark and grisly for my tastes, but I'm sure that grittiness is exactly what makes it appeal to other people. It seems like it's going to have a very strong story as well as intense gameplay, so yeah, I think this is going to be absolutely amazing for the right target audience. It's described as a biopunk survival horror adventure, so I think that unique concept helps it stand out amongst other games, and even though I have no plans to play it myself, I'm really excited for my fellow gamers to finally get to experience it, as I know people have been hyped for it for some time now. Like, ever since it was announced, people have been talking really excitedly about Scorn, and now it's finally going to be here. So yeah, if you are one of those people who was after Scorn, go get it on October 14th. Then finally on October 18th, we have A Plague Tale Requiem. Now, I'd vaguely heard people talking about A Plague Tale for the last few years, but I'd never paid it much attention to myself. I remember seeing the trailer for Requiem during E3 2021 and thinking it looked decent, but I wasn't really invested enough to look into it or anything. Then last month, I saw that the prequel A Plague Tale Innocence was leaving the service, and I decided to play it just so I'd be ready for Requiem if I ended up liking it. And I certainly did end up liking it. I know I've just finished saying how I won't play Scorn because of the horror elements, and yet here I am saying I loved A Plague Tale, but this game had just the right level of scariness that I could cope. So Innocence was nothing like the heavy action I was expecting based on the trailer and what I'd heard about it. Instead, there's a very heavy emphasis on stealth, and the story development was phenomenal. I was hooked throughout, and I found it genuinely moving. I think I even teared up a few times. Like, it's such an amazing story. story. And since I finished it, I've been eagerly awaiting the release of Requiem, and we're super close now. Based on the trailer, there's going to be even more exciting features as well as multiple options for combat. It's set only a short while after the events of the first game, and I really cannot wait to see how the story will play out. The graphics also seem to have improved significantly from Innocence. I've got the game pre-installed, ready to play on day one. Like, I am really excited for Requiem to come out. So this podcast is focused on Xbox Game Pass, so I won't go into details on these next games, but PC Game Pass is also getting Dyson Sphere Program and The Walking Dead Seasons 1 and 2. And now that we've looked at the games that are coming, we have to look at the games that are sadly departing from Game Pass. So unlike with the coming soon games where they all have different release dates, the leaving soon ones are all disappearing on the same day, which is October 15th, which means you only have until then to play any of these that take your fancy. Don't forget, if you really enjoy any of these, you can buy them at a discount whilst they're still on Game Pass, and then you won't have to worry about rushing through them. So the first one that's leaving is Bloodroots. This one's only got 5 hours to beat the main story, so this is a nice quick option if you don't have much time before October 15th. However, this does double to 10 hours if you want to do a completionist run. So this cartoonish hack and slash has plenty of fake blood and encourages you to kill everyone. The game allows you to use a wide range of weapons found within your environment, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's less intense than some other hack and slash games, so I'd say it's a good option for newcomers to the genre. We've also got Echo Generation leaving, and this has a very odd art style. So it's got those kind of like 3D pixelated graphics, but it's a different style used for the characters and creatures compared to the environment. This charming adventure game uses turn-based combat and a range of puzzles to craft the gameplay experience. I remember hearing about this when it first came out, but I never got around to playing it, so I'm definitely going to make sure to give it a chance before it's too late. This one's 7 hours to complete the main game and 10.5 if you want to do a completionist run, but based on how fun the trailer looks, I'd say it's going to be worth those 7 hours if you do have the time for it. Then we've also got Into the Pit, which is another relatively short game. This one taking only 6 hours for the main game, but 12.5 if you want to fully complete it. Now, I hadn't heard of this one before, and having watched the trailer, I could not be less interested. I know my preferences might be different to yours though, so take what I say with a pinch of salt. But the art style looks like it was made in the early 2000s, and I know some people enjoy that retro vibe, but to me it just looks completely unappealing. I don't mind pixel art, but my problem's with that kind of like underdeveloped looking art style, which reminds me of the time when the technology didn't exist to create better character models, but it exists now, so in my opinion there's no excuse for it in today's day and age, and Into the Pit was made in 2021. It should look better than it does. Clearly I'm not the only person who's not fussed on it, because it only scored 67% on Metacritic, and in case any of you are unaware of what the Metacritic scores mean, anything below 75 is likely not going to be a particularly fun game. But still, if you enjoy action-intensive games, then this fast-paced FPS roguelite might be worth checking out anyway. Now this next one is Ring of Pain, and if you're a completionist, you will want to start this straight away because it takes 42 hours to fully complete this one, but if you only want to do the main game, then it's only 5.5 hours. I am so annoyed I haven't heard of this one before because the trailer looks really promising. I don't fully understand how it's played, but it's intrigued me enough that I want to learn. It looks like it has really complex mechanics with excellent synergy, and it reminds me of Slay the Spire, which is one of my favourite games ever. So this is a roguelike card crawler where actions are played around a ring. I'll be honest, I don't totally get it, but I am sure it'll make sense when you start playing. I really hope I get a chance to play this one before it's removed. It's top of my list to check out as soon as I finish playing Echo Generation. It's just a shame to know I probably won't be able to complete it because I do not have 42 hours before October 15th. But it does look amazing, and I might potentially decide to buy the full game if I play it for a few hours and love it. We'll have to see. Then we've also got Sable, and I remember this one was available as a temporary demo ahead of its release alongside a bunch of other Idea Xbox games, and although I played the majority of the demos available, Sable just didn't appeal to me, and seeing as I wasn't even interested enough to check out the demo, I'm certainly not going to play it when time's limited and I can only play so many of these games that are leaving. Something about the art style just really depresses me, and I can't put my finger on why. Like, it's colourful, it's well drawn, but I just feel empty watching the trailer. I think maybe because of like how desolate the setting is, but honestly it scares me, and I worry I'd be having like an existential crisis if I played this. However, it is very high rated by those who have played it, so if you're into story-driven open-world exploration games, this is certainly one that should be on your radar. Its average time to beat is 7.5 hours, or 19.5 if you're going for full completion. And then finally, we have The Good Life. So I actually had the opportunity to get a free key to review this ahead of its release, but I turned it down as it sadly just didn't spark joy for me. I do actually like the premise, but the trailer looked a bit slow-paced for my tastes, and I'm not a very patient person when it comes to games. It doesn't have to be heavy action or anything, but there always needs to be something that I'm doing that feels worthwhile, and it felt like there was a lot of unnecessary waiting in The Good Life, which is why I didn't want to check it out myself. I feel confident I didn't miss much, to be honest, because it scored a measly 62% on Metacritic. This murder mystery is set in the fictional town of Rainy Woods, supposedly known as the happiest town in the world. You play as a photographer who's uncovering a story after being secretly hired by a resident to investigate. I feel bad judging it when I haven't even played it, but based on the trailer as well as what I've read from other people's reviews, this just feels like a case of great concept, bad execution. It's long as well, with like 12 hours to beat the main story and 35 hours for a completionist run, so if you chose to play this one instead of some of the other games that are leaving, you might miss out on something better, but it is up to you. If it sounds like your kind of concept, check out the trailer and see what you think. Don't let me put you off it. And there we have it. We've reached the end of the episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed learning about Disney Dreamlight Valley as well as the games that are coming to and leaving Game Pass. Please do check out www.screenhype.co.uk. It's my own website where I write articles about TV, movies and gaming. I've also got a tab for the Exploring Game Pass podcast where you can find all the episode links as well as extra details about the show. Next episode, we're going to be taking a look at one of my favourite games, Bugsnax. I'll see you then.